2016, January 10th, 2022, 7 p.m. The first order is routine business. Call to order. Alexis.
Howard.
Present.
Dickman. Smith.
Here.
Snyder. Here. Hammond. Here. Wilson. Here.
Here. Thank you. And item B is adoption of the agenda.
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Support. A motion by Hammond and support by Dickman. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing there's no discussion, we take a vote. All in favor of accepting the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item 2, organization of the board, election of officers. We're going to do this as a batch this year, so back in November we went position by position. So, if you're interested, or if somebody wants to nominate somebody, that's all well. I do know that we need to fill the secretary position with Alexis stepping down. So if anybody's interested in the secretary, please nominate yourself or be nominated, or any other position.
Existing president, vice president, treasurer, and remaining.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to remain. Jeff, are you willing to remain as vice president? Okay, Dave, are you willing to remain as good? Okay.
That just knocks 3 people out.
Okay, so, yep, so, and Chrissy and Jake, any of you interested in being secretary? That's a no, thank you.
Okay, so who was our slate then? So president, vice president, who's treasurer?
Dave.
Dave,
was
oh,
looking for-
okay.
So, it's, are you or Jake interested in being secretary?
I suppose I will. Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to nominate that slate?
So moved.
Okay, so we're gonna, there's a motion by Jake, is there a second?
Support.
Okay, so we got a motion by Jake and support by Smith to nominate Matt Powers as president, Jeff Dickman as vice president, Dave Smith as treasurer, and Ann Henning as secretary. Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, board. Okay, so now we're gonna close nominations and we need to approve. Is there a motion to approve the elections? Motion by Snyder. Second by Powers. Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, Howard.
Yes.
Dickman.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Snyder. Yes. Hammond.
Yes.
Wilson. Yes. Welch.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Motion passes. Okay. On to item B, board member reimbursement.
Wait.
Oh. Sorry, we're shifting gears.
Oh.
You are the secretary.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Alexis. Sorry.
Wanna swap?
All right, so board member reimbursements, item B. Currently, we receive a $25 reimbursement per meeting and special meeting. The state maximum is $30 per meeting. Is there any motion or discussion?
Motion that we keep it as it is.
Okay, we have a motion by
I'll
Smith
support.
and support by Welch to stay at $25 a week. All right, is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, we'll take a roll call vote.
Oh, okay. Sorry, this is one.
Yeah,
roll call
we can
here.
call you after the.
Oh, no, sorry, I didn't realize it was a roll call. Okay, let's see here. Dickman,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Huson,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Hammond, yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 3, public communication. And the first item is appreciation and recognition, TK Board of Education.
We have Mr. Bruno from Page to take care of this evening, so. This is why we're all here.
So, good evening, school board. Mr. McCracken. I'm here with the student council page, as well as Mrs. Sycamore and Mrs. Schneider, the two advisors of our student council at Page, and our student council members. Both have some things to say to you, and they have some items for you as a token of our appreciation on behalf of all the schools, all staff, and all students here at Thornapple Kellogg. Thanks.
We are members of Page Student Council representing the classes of 2029 and 2030. Since January is School Board Appreciation Month, we wanted to thank you for your service to our district and share our favorite things about going to school at TK. My name is Max, and I am in 4th grade. My favorite thing about our school is all of the teachers.
Hi, my name is Aaron Adler, and I'm in 5th grade. My favorite thing about this school is the teachers and the students, because we could all be friends. We have fun.
Hi, my name is Emery Sisler, and I am in 5th grade. And my favorite thing about our school is all of our specials that we get to do because I have a lot of fun. My name is Anna. I am in 4th grade. My favorite thing about our school is music. My name is Ella, and I'm in 4th grade. My favorite thing about the school is the teachers and the friends. My name is Ellie, and I'm in 4th grade. My favorite thing about the school is that it makes a difference. My name is Charlotte Leckie, and I'm in 4th grade. My favorite thing about our school is math and science. My name is Jenna, and I'm in 4th grade. My favorite thing about the school is math. My name is Kira, and I'm in 5th grade. My favorite thing about school is hanging out with all the teachers and all the students.
My name is Gary, and I'm in 5th grade. My favorite thing about our school is playing basketball and PE.
My name is Matthew Sturgis, and I'm in 5th grade. My favorite thing about our school is being in student council and being able to make a stand about what I think. On behalf of Page Student Council, we would like to represent you with a handmade gift to show our appreciation. We made fleece blankets that we would like to give you now. Each time you use it, we hope you remember how much you are appreciated and how grateful we are for your service. Thank you.
I guess it's possible.
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You all did a great job presenting. Thank you very much.
Okay, so, yeah, that was fun. All right, item B is public input. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public input on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. Members of the public may address the Board of Education during public comment for up to 3 minutes. Speakers will be recognized by the presiding officer and are asked to state their name, address, and group affiliation if applicable. As a reminder, all comments shall be directed to the board and not to staff or other participants. No participant may speak more than once. Participants may not behave in a manner that is disruptive to the orderly conduct of the meeting. The Board of Education does not respond to public comment. The superintendent will follow up with speakers when appropriate. At this time, we will begin public comment. And we have Mr. Mark Hageman.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, because they did a great job. Yeah, thank you. My name's Mark Hagman, and I'm the middle school band director here at TK Middle School. I thought I'd take this opportunity to update you on some of the great things our middle school band students have been doing this year. On Tuesday, October 19th, 4 TK 8th graders took part in the Middle School Honors Band hosted by the School of Music at Western Michigan University. The students involved were Miles Chambers, Avery Hagman, Kenzie Knight, and Lucy Tunison. The students spent the entire day on campus at WMU, rehearsing with approximately 80 other students selected from middle schools from across the state. They had the opportunity to work with guest composer and conductor Aaron Cole Steele, as well as hearing performances by WMU School of Music faculty and students. They also got to see a performance by the Bronco Marching Band. The students put on a very successful and entertaining concert later that evening in Miller Auditorium. On November 20th, there were 12 students from TKMS participating in the Michigan State Band and Orchestra Soul and Ensemble Festival. Students worked very hard preparing either a solo or a small group piece to be evaluated by musical judges. Students could earn anywhere from a 1st division rating to a 5th division rating, 1st being the best. Students involved were Dylan Bremer, Austin Hansford, Addison Koistra, Avery Hageman, Kenzie Knight, Carly Ogle, Elena McCrum, Haley Lee, Olivia Zolinsky, Isabel Peering, Anthony Sager-Wiesner, and Lucy Tunison. Soloists were assisted by the piano accompaniment skills of Mrs. Tina Bovey. I'm very proud to say that every student from TK earned a 1st division rating for their performance. Starting next week, all 6th, 7th, and 8th grade band students will begin learning the Star Spangled Banner. I feel very strongly that each of my students should learn to play the national anthem on their instruments during their time in middle school band. You'll be able to see our students perform the anthem at the West Michigan Whitecaps game on Saturday, May 14th. This should be a very memorable performance, and in addition, the Whitecaps will be donating a portion of each ticket we sell back to the band program. On a side note, I'd like to give special thanks to all of our school board members. Your hard work and dedication is what sets the stage for our students to shine. I know you don't hear it enough, but you are appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Cheryl Haddon.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Hadman, and I just have a couple of things I wanted to address. First, I wanted to thank you all for serving on the school board. I know it's been a hard job in the last 2 years or so. Thank you for putting in the time and the effort to fill these positions. Second, the board positions you hold are elected positions. You received the majority vote to put you here. You need to do what the majority believe, whether that is what you agree with or not. It's not what you believe, it's what the majority believe. That is your job. An example of this is wearing masks. I know that's been a huge debate. Before we came back to school in January, we as parents and as staff received an email strongly recommending to wear masks, and it was not a mandate, so thank you very much for that. Because the majority of the McFall staff and parents do not agree with wearing masks, the majority of McFall is not masked at this time. I'm not sure how the other buildings look, but that's how it is at McFall. This should tell you what the majority wishes are on masks. Thirdly, the COVID vaccine will not end the pandemic. COVID is here to stay. We have to learn to live with it, just as we have influenza and all its variants. The COVID vaccine has not been around long enough to prove its effectiveness, and from what I've researched, it is not ending COVID. People with the vaccine are still getting COVID, some are very sick, and some have died even while being vaccinated. Please, when some of these items come up for vote, please vote for the majority. Please do the job you were hired for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Olivia Bennett.
I'm Olivia Bennett from Kellogg. I'm a TK alum, born again Christian, former TBC youth leader, and Master of Ministry graduate from Piper College. Most of my life has been dedicated to my service of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He's what motivates me to get up in the morning and do the best I can to help others. And he's why I support public safety measures in schools, such as universal masking and close contact quarantine requirements in school, COVID cases, especially as COVID cases increase recently. Jesus asked us to show our love to our neighbors, and a big part of showing your love toward one another is caring for each other's health, even if it does seem to be a mild inconvenience to us. Let us remember the story of the Good Samaritan. It was inconvenient for him to get off his donkey and care for another person, but he stepped out of the goodness of his heart anyway. There are some among my Christian family here today that seem to forget Jesus' teachings. They forget how to love and care about others. They forget what he talked about in regard to filling their own ego by making public prayers like a Pharisee. They come before meetings such as this one, and their prayers mold God into their own image, petitioning him to do their own selfish business. And they want to use God as a weapon to shift public policy towards selfishness. I've recently read online that we're apparently now upset with board member Ann Hammond when she wrote a letter to the editor. She wrote it as a citizen of the community about an incident happening outside of the school board, and she wrote it as a board, did not write it as a board member. She wrote it about an event that wasn't even at a board meeting. And the banner is responsible for saying that she wrote it as a board member. And people forget that as a Berry County resident and taxpayer, she's allowed to have a voice and opinion too. But the thing is, people are mad because they think she attacked Christians. She didn't attack Christianity though. What she attacked is a gross misuse of religion, which we see time and time here again at these meetings. Which, if memory serves me correct, in part, what Jesus is on here on earth doing is fighting against the misuse of religion. If you feel attacked as a Christian by her letter, then perhaps it's because you're not practicing Christianity right. And maybe it's time for you to start doing some internal reflection when you read your scriptures, instead of trying to sift out verses that you could try and attack others with. Maybe it's time for you to stop trying to mold God into your own image, and instead open up your heart and allow yourself to become more like him. Thank you.
Karen Seifert.
Hi, I'm Karen Seifert, and I teach first grade at McFall for the last 22 years. And last year was an exception. I did virtual comparative. But I was just here because I was asked that maybe we could share some good things that are going on in our schools. And if you want to see some good things, just come to McFall, because there's always fun things going on there. And one of the things that the first grade had done for December was focus on kindness, because we need to be showing kindness to others and start them young, thinking about how to be kind to others. So many of the classrooms had, instead of elves on the shelf for Christmas, they had kindness elves in their classroom, and they were measuring acts of kindness. What does it look like? What does it feel like? How can we have examples of it in our community and in our school and in our classroom? So each classroom had different ways of measuring acts of kindness. My class had a balance scale which was like a bucket filler, and every time we saw acts of kindness, the kids would report what they saw, and we'd fill the bucket. And then if the bucket was higher on the bucket filling side, they got a gift from the kindness elf, and then we could open it, and the gift was always something to give to somebody else in the school, like a candy cane to go out and say thank you to someone in the school that had worked hard. So the kids were coming up with things to thank other teachers and staff and students for, so they could hand out the candy canes. And then we were looking for a way to share kindness in the community, so we always used to go to Carva and sing to them at Christmas and do carols, but then COVID hit and it was really hard to go in and sing, so we had to get creative. And some of the classrooms, there were 4 of us that were able to get our schedules together. Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Irwin, Mrs. Allen, and myself were able to walk over there, and we sang outside of Carva. We had them lower the windows, and we had a microphone, and we sang Christmas carols to them to, try to brighten their day. So my good news, or what I want to say to you is that we're just trying to share, how to be kind and involved. And I thank all the board and Mr. McCarthy for the job you do and your dedication and support to the students of DK. And I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I know our staff does as well.
Thank you, Karen. David Monkowski?
I didn't know the school board appreciation month, but we do appreciate you. My wife and I, we do pray for the school staff quite frequently. And we don't always see eye to eye, but we are on the same mission together, putting our kids first. One thing I would like to propose, if we could, is it possible to do the Pledge of Allegiance before these meetings? And I don't know the formal way to ask to do that, but I guess I'm just doing that now. So, since around June last year, obviously a lot of parents have come forward and have spoken in these school board meetings. There's been a lot of issues that have come up, and I think a lot of the parents have been very concerned where we're going. A lot of things happening in the world. But frankly, parents are scared, concerned, want what's best for their kids, and I think most of the people that I've seen, if not all people that I've seen get up here and speak, have been respectful. But unfortunately, some people have called us a mob, and it's unfortunate. Recently, a letter was written in the local paper, which was already referred to, saying that people who use faith to fight measures that protect us have divided the community and prolonged a pandemic that could have been beaten back months ago. This ridicule for wanting us to make our own choices for our families, by saying that they've asked to be trusted for making decisions for their own families, and ignored facts in favor of folklore, conspiracies, and false prophets. Also, that we're so focused on our individual rights that we lost sight of the core of Jesus' message to love one another, and then ending the letter by urging everyone to get vaccinated. Despite these beliefs, our family has acknowledged that Jesus is Lord, and He is ultimately in control, no matter what. We put our faith in Jesus, and we will not live in fear. We also believe our bodies are temples, and personally, we're not going to defile them with this vaccine. Everyone has their own choice, but that's just where we stand. As you're aware, there is a vaccine adverse event reporting system that has documented over 21,000 deaths from this vaccine since it's been rolled out, and over 1 million people have reported adverse effects in the U.S. And these numbers are estimated to be underreported by 4 to 5 times. And no one knows the long-term effects. There's also a recent study of 145 countries administering the vaccine that found that the higher rate of vaccine, there's a higher rate of death. And I don't think it's any kind of mystery that everyone died from sudden illness is just a coincidence. I don't know how we can argue that these vaccines are safe. The vaccines that are given right now are under emergency use position only.
Excuse me, Mr. Lonka.
Have I gone over?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for your words.
I'll go and email the rest of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Right, the last card I have is Mr. Ray Rickard.
How are you? Yeah, I don't need to go over there, do I? You guys can hear me just fine, right?
It's up to you.
Okay. So my name is Ray Rickard, 25-year veteran teacher, community member, parent, TKEA president. First, per my recent email, I'm going to take this off just for a second. I publicly urge you to take action tonight to name Mr. McCarthy superintendent so that he may assemble the rest of his team and continue to move our district forward. He has the full support of our TKEA leadership team. Next, I'd like to share some good news from the high school building. Staff report the following. First, there's an awesome long-term sub in room 308. The high school art department has entered 16 works of art in the Scholastic Art Competition. 2 art students have entered art in the Thornapple Arts Council competition. Mrs. Cobb's marketing class opened the school store for second semester this morning, where 25 students will learn retail skills. The National Honor Society is starting a before and after school tutoring program. 4 students with special needs have been accepted to GRCC, with 1 more pending. We now have a slab roller. Mrs. Maring describes that as like a giant pasta machine for our ceramic students, thanks to a grant from TAEF. Several former art students have opened shops around town, including Kindred and Nature Walk. The Spanish teachers taught students how Christmas is celebrated in Latin and South America, which included a sampling of traditional Spanish Christmas bread. Mrs. Doran continues to challenge her students to expand their mindfulness practices, and Mr. Dock expressed how awesome it is to be back to doing labs this year, teaching students how to collect data, analyze it, and draw conclusions from it. There are great things happening in our district, and we continue to appreciate your continued commitment to our students.
Thank you, Mr. Rickard. Okay, like I said, that was the end of our cards. Was there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes, Ms. Hilton.
I don't think I need to go anywhere. I'll just first off want to thank you guys for having us assemble and the ability for us to speak with you. I just wanted to share that since May, since I've been coming in person and you guys started back up in person, we've been sharing, concerns and also words of gratitude and things of that nature, but we haven't been getting a whole lot of response back, so I think that's where a lot of the parents are feeling frustrated. I know that's where I'm frustrated. We brought concerns to the board, which is what we're asked to do, and yet we're told that the superintendent will reply, and when our other superintendent was here, we did get responses, and since then we have not been getting any responses. So when we bring our concerns to the board, our hope is that those concerns would then receive some kind of response, because that's how this works. So I would just ask for some more transparency as well. I know that the minutes have been very scarce, so when there's been times myself I haven't been able to come to a meeting, I go to look at the minutes to see what happened, and it's extremely vague to where you can't even understand what took place during the meeting. And to be fair, this is supposed to be something where the stakeholders are able to look and to see what took place and what's going on within our district that we pay for. So I would just ask that the meeting minutes reflect that and are actually descriptive and include details of what was said. It doesn't have to be obviously a book, but I've seen other schools' minutes and they're very, very different than what ours are. So I would just ask for that. So I think if the board could at least work to be more transparent, to be more actively involved in helping parents understand what's going on, you'd also see the result of less frustration. So I don't know how else to get that across. Otherwise, parents are going to continue to be frustrated, continue to feel that we're not being heard, that you don't care about our concerns, even if you don't agree with them. A response to say, hey, this is why this is done would be wonderful. So that's the only thing I wanted to talk about today, and just hope that there's some changes where that goes, and I think you'll see a change in how parents feel about the board as well. Although we do care about our board, we love our board, but there is a distrust that I'm hoping will get resolved soon.
Thank you. All right, are there any other people that would like to Okay, so we are up to consent grouping. Item 4, any consent grouping item can be removed for separate consideration by board member request. All consent grouping items will be adopted in one motion with a roll call vote. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion or somebody requesting separation.
A motion that we approve the consent grouping items as presented.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Smith, support by Hooven. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I would just like to make a comment to acknowledge that one of the items on our consent grouping is to accept the resignation of Alexis Snyder, our colleague here for, I think, about 7 years. With regret, I quite regretfully cast that vote to accept her resignation. I just wanted to thank Alexis for her service. And one thing that the members of the community don't get to see that we on the board have, she's a very quiet presence in board meetings. But when the 7 of us as a board have to sit down to the table to hash things out, there is no one who is more effective at the board table than Alexis. She keeps us focused, she gets us on point, she gets us on mission, and when Alexis speaks, we listen, and I think we all listen more intently thanks to her. So she's brought a lot of skill to the table, and it will be greatly missed.
I also have Alexis is soft-spoken by nature and provides a calm presence wherever she is. I've known her for a good long time now. I've truly enjoyed working with her on the Board of Education. She reads up on and researches situations. She processes information, which is very important, and develops an articulate response. The board will miss her demeanor and her experience as we move forward. And again, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion second. Any other discussion? Okay, this will be a roll call vote, please, Ann.
Okay, Powers,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Cannon, yes, and Dickman.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, board. Okay, so now we're up to item 5, board items for action. And curriculum director, Ms. Chazo. Oh, sorry. Apologies, yes, getting ahead of myself. Board items for information. Agricultural biology course proposal.
Thank you for having us. I'm just going to introduce, we have Amanda Kozlowski here and then Tony Peterson from the high school. We're excited to present to you information about a potential biology and agricultural focus to bring to the books for students for next year. And Amanda came to us last year to teach virtual, and this year she's teaching science and has done the research and put this course proposal together. It has been reviewed by the High School Improvement Committee and the District School Improvement Committee, and we support bringing it to you to share for information. Thank you, Amanda.
I can give you a little background on this too. We started looking into FFA programs for the high school a few years ago and researching into it, met with Mr. Scott over at Caledonia. To kind of get some background, we didn't really know a lot about the Middleville FFA program. It started roughly 1930s, 34 is what he gave us, and I think it ended around 1966. At least that's what he gave us. But not really sure why it ended. And in my 10 years or so far, this is my 8th year at TK High School, I've had a lot of inquiries as to FFA. Why don't we have FFA? And didn't really have a good answer for that, but very intrigued and interested into it. So we started looking into it, learned a lot from Mr. Scott, and then Amanda came along and started working with us here at TK as virtual and now teaching science and has an ag science background. And so we started looking at ways that we can start to get back into the FFA world. And part of that is, to be a part of FFA, you have to have agriculture courses. And there's a lot of opportunities for kids in ag science, not just farming, but a lot of ag business stuff as well. And we wanted to look at ways to get that incorporated. And one way is to start small and get a couple classes going and see how that might take off, and then start to build potentially that FFA program. We have a large contingency of students in the TK community who are in 4-H, my daughter being one of them, so it's I'm a little impartial there. And I've been able to experience that a little bit this past year at Fair, and seeing how many TK kids are there. It's awesome to see them and what they're doing, and to be able to bring that back and be a part of that again at TK High School would be awesome. So we want to start small. We want to incorporate a biology class that has an ag science focus to it. It doesn't really modify the bio class too much. It still counts as that bio requirement that the state requires for students for graduation, but it adds in some of that FFA leadership units, which Amanda can speak to a little bit more. And it's a way to just gauge interest, get kids involved. Eventually, it would be mandatory that kids that are a part of that would be a part of the FFA program once that's implemented, so that we can build up that FFA program and be able to sustain it. So that's kind of the background to it and the work that we put into it. And kind of where we're at now. Amanda has all the knowledge on how to get FFA going and what that looks like, and the course in particular. So if you have any specific questions about the course, I know Amanda can speak to that.
Yes.
So you're just looking at one section right away.
Right.
Has there been any initial interest? Have you floated it out to students?
They had conducted a survey a couple years ago.
Yeah, Kevin Remenapp and I did a survey, I think it was 2 years ago, just with a variety of ag science classes that were out there, just to gauge interest, to see, part of what we were charged with is there really an interest with our kids. And it came back, and there was an overwhelming interest. I mean, we're not talking like hundreds of kids, but enough to run sections of an ag science class to get started. I believe ag bio was part of that. I don't remember right off the top of my head if that was one that was specifically listed, but we did have an interest. And again, it was a couple years ago. We've had turnover in kids so far, but initially when we started this and then COVID hit and budgets got cut and all that kind of stuff, we had to step back. But we did have interest from our students.
And then FFA was mentioned. What is the reasonable timeline for that? Is that this fall, or is that still a year or two out?
So the way that it works is, in order to have an agri-science program, you have to have 3 components, and the leadership program is a part of that. So we would probably be starting out small, probably not involved in all of the programs and contests that the FFA has to offer, but we certainly would like to have, we would have to have FFA members be involved in some of the components, and that's where some of the leadership units that are in the course proposal come into play, that they can get some of those leadership skills, the background of it, and then also have the supervised agricultural experience, which is the work-based learning component. So there's your classroom curriculum, there's your work-based learning, and there's the leadership component. So those are the 3 that you have to have in order to get the funding for an agri-science program.
So this is the beginning.
Yes.
And trying to see if there are
Small
students.
steps.
Yeah, our goal would be an agri-science program, which we would have to have those components to get funding from the state. So there's CTE funding from the state for that to help fund the program. This would be a way to get interest, get kids involved, and see if it will take off the way that we hope to before we move into the full-blown ag science program, which then we would have to have those requirements and would have to have an SFA at that point.
And because it's teaching a biology curriculum, just in a different way,
Right.
it may engage students in biology. We're hopeful that we never even thought they might target biology as well. So it gives us an opportunity to target different groups.
So a student who's already taken biology and is an upperclassman, there's not much point in going back to take biology.
They would be taking biology again with the addition of the leadership pieces.
It's starting with this current students that would be taking biology at this time and would be a part of the program.
It would target freshmen to start,
Yeah.
with the hopes to be able to open it up for upperclassmen and have that opportunity.
So the idea would be to have a second year then, hopefully a second year science course for those students, and then electives after that. And electives, again, would be kind of surveying student interest to see if it's horticulture, to see if it's veterinary medicine, just depending on what the student interest is. But overall, the agri-science industry continues to be a growing industry, and I think the misconception of having an FFA program is that it's just for farmers, and it's really not. So the industry is really looking for students who have the STEM knowledge, so that's where the science classes are really important to have, but with an agri-science background, agri-science and natural resources background.
You may or may not remember, but we do have a garden club here at middle school, and I think that is sort of a perfect feeder to a freshman ag science program.
And there's middle school programs too that can be
Yes.
implemented down the road too.
Oh, the middle school, I'm sorry, this is exciting. I grew up in a really small farm town. I'm the child of dairy farmers, and so, and my dad was on the state championship debate team through FFA. So I've got some ties to this, so I am super excited. I don't know how many times I've said, duh, we're in a farm town.
Had a lot of those
So-
conversations, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And yeah, you answered my question about what, after this, what the courses would be that we would add. And yet, do you have any sense of how many kids we might get in this group?
No, we can survey the kids, and find, and get a better number. We have not done that yet. It is in particular to the ag bio class.
Okay.
We did have a large interest in ag science just in general when we did the survey 2 years ago.
And I just, my only other question is, what does the work-based component look like? How does that, and how do you monitor that?
For the supervised agricultural
Yeah,
experience.
there you
meeting.
go, yeah.
So there's programs out there already, and
Okay.
it's very individualized. So a student doesn't have to be on a farm in order to have a supervised agricultural experience. It could be, maybe they mow lawns, and they're keeping track of their, their record keeping. So any type of hobby, interest, job that they have, they can even do a job shadow, and that would count as one. Something that they're keeping track of, doing record keeping for, having those leadership skills, and something that's related to a career in agriculture and natural resources.
Thank you.
Just one quick comment, it was in the proposal, but we look at the cost with this would be pretty minimal, compared to a general biology class. It just might be some different supplies, or easy to take on a field trip, but to start this program off, we're looking at the science budget and be able to support that and allocate just those little additional resources. And if we look to grow the program and have that interest, then we'll have to write for grants and things and come back to.
That's where the ag science program would come in to get the funding from the state. There's a sizable amount of money we can get from the state to support the program eventually.
And the way that this is set up, there's 8 out of the 12 segments that's required to have a completer student. You would have to have 2 years in the agri-science program and complete all 12 to have a completer student, but you do get some funding with students that complete 8 out of the 12 segments. So next year, if we have this ready to go and it's an agri-science program, we can count the enrollment for next year to then receive funding for the following year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item B, committee reporting. Personnel did meet with, Jake and I met with Craig. And we had 2 simple questions. One was, we need to move forward with superintendent, so gathering information was Craig interested, as the opportunity arose. We'll decide in about 5 or 10 minutes. Where to go, and Craig said he was interested if the opportunity arose to be superintendent, or to be a candidate. And the other question we had was, interim-wise, he's covering 2 positions right now. What supports does he need if the internship runs longer? And he gave us those supports that he'd request, and the Ken ISD can cover those. You were confident in that, so. Yep. So, that was that. Was there any other committees that met?
Construction did meet. The biggest activity that's taking place right now is the Learning Center. At one point in time, I think I sent a note to the board that our current roofing contractor was not meeting their obligations. Notice was given to that roofing contractor, and lo and behold, they were able to get the materials they needed to be able to put the roof on the Learning Center. So I think just starting that fire underneath them got them moving. And so the roof actually is being worked on right now. Well, not right at this moment, but during the daylight hours. So that is moving ahead, and we are on schedule, so that's a positive thing. Over break, the contractors came in while we were out of the building and did a lot of the punch list items in the elementary buildings. As I mentioned in an email Friday, they as things pop up in the building that we see, we will bring it to their attention that these items still need to be taken care of. So we're moving forward. So.
It sounds like Paige is moving on with the cafeteria.
And yes, that was going to be in my superintendent update, but the cafeteria is open at Page, which is great, and the kitchen's open at Page. And they, the funny thing is because it's a new kitchen, it's larger, they have the opportunity to make more items. The process slowed down the first couple of days because the kids couldn't decide on what they wanted to do. So, but, you know, as we got to the end of the week, they got through the process a little bit more quickly, and it started to clear out the line quicker. We also have a much larger area because we added on to the cafeteria itself, so I think we can get close to 70 additional students eating in there at a time, so that moves the kids through the lunch process. Yeah.
And then, would you mind speaking about the high school?
Sure.
Because you had that.
That's also in my
Oh,
update,
okay.
but I'll get it now
Sorry.
as long as we're there. Many of you read the newspaper, saw in the news that our high school gym roof was peeled back. We've had that put down temporarily for a number of, since the 11th of December. We thought, based on initial estimates, we weren't going to get the materials to do the roof until late January, early February. Well, last week, the roofing company came through, got the material, and dropped it off last week, and they started replacing the roof today. So it may be a few-week process to get the whole roof done, but we'll be done back in the gym sooner rather than later. So that's positive.
That's good. All right, thank you.
You bet.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Going on to item C, board member vacancy. We have Alexis Snyder resigning, effective tomorrow. So, just kind of want to rehash some things. At our October 11th meeting, we had a second reading of a new policy which makes it official, the policy 0142.5. Filling board vacancy. We edited C, the board shall interview all candidates, to the board shall determine which candidates they will interview. And we added an option E, if there are additional vacancies on the board within 6 months of a previous vacancy, the board may choose to fill the vacancy from those previous interviews. The interview process and vacancy fillings were on July 14th and October 12th. But I would like to clarify with legal since we made the policy after July 14th, if we can do that. I don't quite know, to be honest with you. October 12th would be valid because that's after the date. We are in the 6-month window for both. And if we want to use that option to fill the pending board vacancy. So I called Brad Vanasek at MASB, Michigan Association of School Boards, to confirm information. A board member may rescind the resignation up to any point to the designated time, which Alexis indicated tomorrow, January 11th. Also, the 30-day timeline to fill the vacancy begins on the stated date. I wanted to clarify that because that email was 3 or 4 days ago, which would have impacted things. It's just a tight timeline to fill a vacancy. So that is effective tomorrow. So with that, I'm open to dialogue. I don't know if you want to go back to the 12th, if you want me to research with legal the July 14th. If you want to, our second and third from October 12th was Allison Hinton and Dr. Chris Noah. From July 14th, it was Ty Winger was second and Tori Pelton was third. We can have like a couple contingency things and laid out, and I can call legal and see what they say, and then just go forward from that.
If I could start, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, by all means.
I can go first. I think if we start with the October 12 interviews, start there with the two, you said it was Allison Hinton and Chris Noah. I think we should start there. and see if one of them are interested. I believe, was it Allison came in second, you said?
Yeah, so just to be clear, are you saying go in order, Allison was second?
I think
Dr.
that
Noster.
seems to make sense.
Well, that's fine, I just want to be clear.
Yeah,
with
that's
it.
what,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I would advocate, is go in the order, because it was a fresh, fresh interview and fresh in our minds. I have mixed feelings about if, say, neither one of them wants it, then what do we do? I mean, I have mixed feelings about going all the way back to the 14th. I guess, if the first, because the people who didn't get it in July didn't reapply, and so to me that says, maybe they weren't as interested as they thought. I mean, the second, third runners up, they could have said, well, okay, here's my chance to get it done, and my odds of getting it are good. So I have a little skepticism there about doing that. So that's one of my thoughts.
Thank you.
So I'm glad you went first. Pretty much said what I was going to say. I will say that, and I won't speak for you, but Jake wasn't able to interview the first round in July. He wasn't present at all, right? And I was in the interviews, so I wasn't paying much attention to anyone else, or had the opportunity to interview other people. So to me, going back all the way July 14th isn't really fair to myself. I'll speak for myself, not for Jake. And I agree with Ann. If they were truly still interested, they should have applied for the October 12th opening.
Thank you.
What's the process if we decided to start over? What is that process?
Oh, so we would, I'd work with Erica. She would do all the technical stuff, that'd be wonderful. But it would get posted on the website and the Sun News. And then there'd have to be a timeline, say like 10 days or whatever. And then they send them to myself or administration office and my name. And then as a group, I would disseminate them back out to you. We would peruse the interviews, or peruse the candidates. And then we've been interviewing all of them, but we don't have to necessarily. I guess it could be a time thing. The reality is you spend 20, 30 minutes on candidates and you get 10 candidates, you're there for a good amount of time.
I believe our bylaw now states that we have latitude to choose how many.
Correct.
candidates.
So that we do have that option. So then that's it. And then we have the interview process itself. And then usually we try to make it that night. And we have a first round of, this is all subject to what we agree on. What we did last time with your joining our team, we pared it down to our top 3 candidates in no specific order, and then we did a power voting type thing, where it was 2 votes for first place, 1 vote for second. So it's a long process. The 30 days is an issue with that process. It just gets tight, no matter how you do it, because you have a posting at the board meetings, you've got to do certain things. So.
But that's what's required by law. That's not a bylaw thing. We have 30 days to fill it.
I have a question, because we had such a deep pool of candidates the last time. I recall, didn't Andrew Parsons, wasn't it like all, we had like this tight, there were 3 of them that were like, so I guess I would even be open to, does anybody actually have the tabulation from where their points landed?
They will be in the minutes.
Okay.
I kept on my notes.
Okay. Because I could see we had 3 really, qualified people that we didn't pick from, and they were all of us, all 3 of those runners up had support, from board members. So I can almost see going through that list of 3.
I think that's too far. If we're gonna, that's my opinion, that if we're gonna do it, we would go to the first 2, and if we don't find it within the first 2, we turn it off, we open it back up for public. That would be my opinion. And I don't know the legal ramifications of going back to the July or not, but I hadn't thought that we open it up to that, but I hadn't thought of the fact that we have board members
a couple who were not involved in any of that process.
Yeah, there's a couple things
So,
that get to the dialogue,
If we did do that, then I would be in favor, if that was an option, I would be in favor, I don't know, for example, if we were gonna take the runners up from each of those, then that we interview those two. So that those who, if you weren't there, you could hear that side of it.
And while I appreciate the comments that have been made about, especially you two who have not interviewed anybody from that first group, there may have been some reason why they chose not to apply the second time when, and maybe that circumstances changed. And I personally would like the idea of taking the top two candidates or the number two candidates from both interview processes and at least see if they're interested still as a first step, and if not, then that kind of decides it for us. But I personally would like to see us look at both of the openings.
Yeah, legal is first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we need to check.
Subject to legal. Sure.
I know it was brought up, I don't have a problem as long as we're interviewing everyone to have brought back someone that I wasn't here for the initial interview, so I don't personally have a problem with, as long as we're not just picking one of them. If we get another interview, I trust you guys having, well, certainly, but I think that's a reasonable way to go about it too. My only concern is if we don't get one that's interested fairly quickly, there's some concern about going through the whole process in 30 days. I mean, I don't think we can wait very long. I mean, maybe we should set a sunset that if in 5 days or 7 days or whatever, we're not able to have at least 2 candidates come and interview in front of us, we start the process of gathering new applicants. I mean, I don't want to get ourselves into a pickle.
Okay, so I'm wide open to the process, but I did have a goal of Thursday. So
The
because
7 days was
Thursday-
negotiable by all.
Right,
I
well,
don't care when.
Right, what's the timeline for Sunday News?
Probably noon Thursday, I think would be I'm not I don't do the,
I know, but
but that Thursday at noon seems to stick in my mind.
Okay, so that was perfect for us, because I wanted a Thursday meeting. Shoot, we could possibly do a Wednesday. What I was thinking was if we could say, have a Wednesday, were you suggesting a mini interview of the top 2, Jake, or no?
No, I mean,
Well-
just a regular interview of the top 2 from the first
Sure,
and the top
okay,
2
so,
from
yeah.
the second, if legal is okay with that, and if they're not, then at least
Okay,
the top 2.
so that's what I keep
last.
hearing resurface, so then, yeah, but we could say do that Wednesday, and then at that, if we're not satisfied, or if the candidates are interested, then we go through the traditional interview process, would that be?
I think, so are you seeing I wasn't seeing an interview, we just interviewed these people in October.
No, I'm just trying to get things clarified,
Yeah.
I said,
Okay.
I'm not floating anything, I'm trying to, there's a lot
I know,
I'm
it's like,
processing
all of a
here.
sudden,
Yeah, I guess I wasn't seeing an interview on the class. We took the runner up.
Unless they both declined, I
Unless we took
guess.
the runner up from both, I mean, unless the runner up from both were interested in it, that's when we would interview.
So what I'm hearing is we're reaching out to the top 2 of the last time. If neither of them want to do it, we're pulling from the runners up and interviewing. Is that what you're suggesting, Jeff? I'm trying to, there's a
No,
lot.
I guess I was
Seconds.
thinking, I was thinking that we took both seconds.
Okay.
From both, within the last 6
If
months.
it's-
If it's legal, and then we interview those 2. If it's not legal, I'm fine with just going with the second place from the last time.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
I don't know, it's getting really
And
confusing.
I think I'm following.
I like that as well.
So, could you just say that again?
So, we had 2
Right.
interview processes within
Right.
the last 6 months. If it's okay to do it with both of them, we take the runner up from each,
Okay,
and we have a quick interview. If they're willing and interested, we only interview those 2.
Oh, so we'd be doing interviews again?
But just those two.
Just those two?
Yeah.
Because, some of our board hasn't heard from the first.
Right.
And then, if we cannot go that far back to the first one, if we can only do it since our policy has changed, then we just check with the second place and the third place if they're interested in taking the position.
I don't know. I'm for going back to 1 and 2 from October, and if neither of them want it, then go back to the July people, or open those things people.
Regardless of July, if you are going back to July, that's gonna have to be decided before Friday, because that's a 6 month. If this isn't complete before Friday, you can't use the July because that'll be longer than 6 months.
Well, that's what we need clarification from legal on, whether or not we have to make a decision within 6 months based on our bylaw, or whether we start the process within 6 months.
Okay, so I will clarify that. But then was there a consensus with the group on a process? Is everybody kind of okay with what Jeff floated out there?
I am.
Okay, so Jeff, we're gonna go, it would be.
Doesn't have to be what I
Oh, you
think.
got your name on it, so
That was an idea, but
Hinton and Winger will get, calls requesting to come in for an interviews, say Wednesday, right?
I don't know if you can
And that's-
request an interview, you'd have to see if they're interested first.
Right, see if they're interested, yeah. And then that'd be Wednesday, sorry, would that be, we'll get a date later. So Hinton and Winger, if they're interested.
So I'm sorry, I really am hesitant to go all the way back to July to interview. Like, if we had 2 top candidates out of October, why would we not just those 2 top candidates in October?
Really, I mean, this.
I'm not, just dialoguing.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too.
Well,
Because
Yeah.
that was when we started
the policy, that, I'm very hesitant
We didn't
once.
interview people
Right.
in July thinking that, okay, let's just keep these people in mind, so that, you know, it's 6 months.
Yeah, I can't see legal really saying it's okay. I mean, that's what they're paid for, but, it just feels like it's, the opposite of a grandfather clause. So then to me, it just makes more common sense that it would be the October. And we just offer it to, Allison Hinton or Dr. Moore.
I mean, we wrote it in there so that we could save ourselves some time.
In the
We
order.
want candidates to not have to interview,
Right.
and now we're going to have to interview anyways.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it, and that's a really tight timeline. I can't guarantee I'll be able to do any of that this week with interviews, personally.
And my only point was that if, from that first group, the top candidate didn't apply because of some circumstances that might have changed, I think it's valid to look at that person as well, if it's legal to do that.
Okay, so.
So what have we resolved?
Well,
Going back to, yeah.
the
I'm just
latest
like-
plan, yes,
Yeah.
Chrissy's
Yeah.
Okay, so Chrissy will go, the latest, no, that would be October, and that would be Hinton. See if she is interested, and then, Dr. Miller to see if he is, and we just go in that order, and there would not be an interview, correct? Chrissy, is that?
I mean,
And my thought
go
is
apart, that's my thoughts.
if neither one of those were interested, then I think we need to open it back up
To totally open. Then we go through the whole process. Okay. All right.
And
Is that,
I'm.
okay, I'm seeing heads nod over here, is that something that we can live with?
I think that was nice. But that's what we made a policy.
Okay. All right, Dave, you're half nodding, are you good?
So are we not, are we saying that there's a majority who don't want to go back to the earlier interview and ask Mr. Winger if he's interested?
That's what I'm hearing right now, but I don't.
Well, I've already expressed that I'd like to see us, see if he's still interested.
All right, and Jake?
Is your intention to offer Ms. Hinton, and if she says no, then offer no?
That's the idea right now.
That's what
The policy,
Policy is-
yeah, that's what the policy was written for, was to save with interviews, because I'll be honest with you, that alone was quite a few hours of work outside of just the actual interview and that process. And it's valid, you have to do all the reading, you have to do all the processing, you have to do all that stuff, because we want the best candidates.
And they were very good candidates.
Well, both schools were rich, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't really speak to him. I did see, Mr. Noah's interview, but I didn't see, Ms. Hinton, so I can't really speak to it. I would prefer to see interviews. That's all my opinion.
It is our policy, we don't need a motion. But do you want to just do a straw poll, or do you want to do an actual motion that we go with?
So the motion would be then that we interview, or that
We
you
apply
talk to the top two runners up
From the October 12th.
from the October 12th. Okay, so I'll move that Matt Powers reach out to the two runners up from our October 12th interviews to see if they're interested in a seat on the board. As a contingency, if both of them decline, then we will post the opening and people can apply and we'll run through the interview process.
Okay, is there a second?
Support.
So we have a motion by Hamming, support by Snyder. And I just want to amend the motion to say we'll offer it to Ms. Hinton first. After, if she accepts it, we accept her. If she declines, then we ask Dr. Miller. Is that?
Yes, that's correct.
That's
yes.
correct, okay. All right, do we need a second for that?
Alexis,
Oh, sure, okay, sorry. So we have a motion by Hamming, a second by Snyder. Is there any discussion?
I would like to, I'm with Dave, I like the idea of taking the people from July. However, I also see it's hard to go retroactive, it's hard to go be
Yep.
after our, retroactive on our policy that we implemented. So I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right, so, should we do a roll call vote on this? Or,
I don't think you need a roll call, but just need to, right?
okay.
Alexis?
Oh, she just said when in doubt, do a roll call.
When in doubt, do a roll call. Okay, let's see, I started with Nellis. Snyder?
Yes.
Smith?
No.
Houston?
Yes.
Welch?
No.
Let's see, Hammond, yes? And Dickman?
Yes.
Oh, Powers, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right, thank you, board, motion carries. I will make that phone call if we get out before 9, otherwise I'll make it tomorrow. Those phone calls. Okay.
And I do want to make a comment that as long as we're not going to look at both sets of interviews, I'm okay with the process of asking the first runner-up first, and then go to the second runner-up if the first runner-up chooses not to.
Okay, thank you.
I have a little bit of a difficult time voting for it, just surely that I didn't see him interview. So,
Well, it's- yeah,
I mean, my preference would be to see people interviewed and know who was here, so just, so
I completely
I'm not
understand,
trying to
because
make
that's why
your
you
lives
interview.
difficult.
Right, yep.
Now, are we able to share their resumes with them?
What do you have and stuff?
Yeah, that's good. I might still have one, yeah. Depends on that.
And I would be all in favor of doing both, like I said, however, I don't like the idea of making it retroactive.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you. That was good dialogue. Appreciate that. All right, so, next one should be just as rich. Superintendent position.
We have bid approval for the, oh, I'm sorry.
No, John.
I don't.
No, you're trying to skip a fun one. Okay, so we have superintendent position. Okay, so, we have a superintendent position to fill, or at least take action on and go somewhere. So I have 3 quick ideas, and by all means, many of you have more experience than I do, and I am open to anything, but I wanted to just throw these out and have the dialogue. One option is keep Craig as interim till the end of the school year. That's very traditional. Start an immediate superintendent search, which I have a couple things. A board member did inquire about searches, and it was purely information gathering, so I called Dave Phillips from MLI, Michigan Leadership Institute. It was $6,200 for the search and up to $1,000 expenses, so about $7,200. MASB, Michigan Association of School Boards, I spoke with Jay Bennett, and he said they've got a standard rate of $7,500. So they're within 300. To me, that's negligible. I did have a good talk with Jay at MASB, and he said to talk with the union groups and the admin team. Go ahead and give reference checks if we are going to go ahead with interim. He mentioned several times if we had a solid interim candidate to explore that opportunity. He mentioned several times. There are currently 13 searches going on with MASB. That's mid-year, and he said one of the advantages of a solid interim is district familiarity. They know the climate, they know the atmosphere. If we go the different route and we want to go forward with a search, then do it now. He said, do not wait. And I questioned that because it's mid-year, and he said, do it now. I said, okay. So, again, I just want to give you information, whichever way we go. So that was keep Craig as interim throughout the school year. Deciding he'd like to stay as interim. Start an immediate superintendent search. Offer Craig an interview immediately. We have received 3 or 4 emails advocating on his behalf. And so if we go that route, again, I would reach out to the unions and the admin team and also call references and due diligence, and we have a public interview. So that's all I got, and now it's up to the team here.
Go ahead. I see a 4th option. Can you go straight to the contract? Craig has been interviewing, assuming he wants this job, we didn't, I haven't heard the answer from the personnel committee.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. He said he would readily accept.
Readily accept,
Or
okay.
readily, sorry, not accept, it was, yes, he would, he'd be interested in the superintendent role.
Okay. Well, yes, thank you. For the verification that he's interested in the superintendent role, his performance, I think, over the last several months has, in my eyes, served as his interview, with his actions, with his professionalism, his communication, the general public hasn't gotten to see our view here from the board table, where I knew within a couple of weeks of working with Craig in the interim role, with his communications, he's mastered the board relations communications piece of it, and has been doing it better than any of the superintendents that I've ever had the pleasure of working with here in this community. He's handled a difficult situation, proved he's calm under fire, can work with all constituents of our community. I'm not quite sure what more we would need to see or what more we would learn in an interview. So as I've reflected upon this, other than giving the community an opportunity, and if we think creatively, we have lots of opportunities, we have lots of ways where we can have the community get to know Craig. So yeah, if we did an interview, it would be so the community can get to see more clearly what we've had an opportunity to see here.
I would be in favor of pursuing an interview with Craig as well. I do think you need the interview. Not that we haven't witnessed what he's done or what he's done firsthand for a while, but I would like to go through the process, and hear some of your vision for TK schools.
I would agree with that. I think an interview makes sense. I think you've proven yourself in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And you've done a great job. And you certainly have a lot of support as well. And I think it's just good for us to have a conversation together about some things. Not that I'm questioning anything, but just to hear from you.
I absolutely feel the same way. I think you all have said it very eloquently. Craig, the world has thrown a lot of obstacles in your way in the last 6 months. Maybe you're even as assistant superintendent, but you have really led with some poise and some professionalism, and it's appreciated. And I don't think there's any reason to keep the search. Interview Craig.
We've actually gotten 5 emails from people of support, and one email was filled with comments from about a dozen other people supporting. And
Nice to hear.
yes, supporting, very nice comments. It's highlighted some, like, share some good stuff about the district. I think there's absolutely zero reason to go through a superintendent search right now. I don't know why we would do that to our community. I don't know why we do that to the school and to the staff. I think we really need stability right now. I think Craig has definitely given it to them, given it to all of us. I can understand wanting an interview as an opportunity to let the community hear Craig. But I'd also be in favor of going into contract negotiations right now. He's deserves a job. He's done the job. He's proven us he can do it. More than just the past couple months. He did it when Rob left too. He really kept through the pandemic. Handling the bond, did all the construction. He's done everything.
Just to be clear, I was not advocating for a search, I was giving information. So, I'm a big proponent of Mr. McCarthy. I do want to go forward, if we go this route with an interview, and again, I'll state it, I believe it's more. I think we have a more intimate relationship with Craig, and we've seen, I quite often have daily phone calls with him, but just his calm composure and calculated responses, and just the thorough responses, it's really just nice. But the community doesn't get to see that very much. So I want to go through that, the interview process, and then also the due diligence of calling references. And I do want to talk to, we did get emails from two of the union leadership people, well, three actually, but I just wanna, I had simple questions, which I think will be quickly answered, and I've got it as a Google Doc here, so I can easily edit, but, would you recommend Craig McCarthy for the position of superintendent? Why? And if you do not recommend him for superintendent and he is promoted superintendent, will you support him? Because sometimes that happens. Do you have reservations about Craig McCarthy being superintendent? Just three quick questions, and again, I was gonna talk to the admin team and, union leadership. So it sounds like we do have a pretty good consensus to go forward with setting up, some kind of process for every superintendent. Is that what everybody's leaning towards? Okay.
I know it's been a very busy month, but I hope that this can get done sooner than later.
Right.
Because Craig really needs to backfill.
Yep.
It's not fair what we're asking him to do.
Right.
He's done 4 months.
Right, the interim job was supposed to be very temporary.
Yes.
Yep. So,
So I would highly hope that that's going to move as quickly as planning board member, if not better.
I'd definitely like to see it happen quickly, and I've been on the board a short period of time, but I have had a good chance to get to know Craig, and I definitely am in favor of an interview. I not only do I not want to strip the public of their opportunity to see Craig, I don't want to strip Craig of the opportunity to show himself and showcase his views of where he wants to go. So I'm in support, but I certainly would like to do the interview process, and I'm all in favor of it being quickly. Just turn your chair around.
I was sitting here thinking, I feel like a fly on the wall.
I apologize. I did speak with legal to see if we just closed session, so that would be awkward for you, but it was not an option, so. Okay, I feel like again, we need a motion for this.
Okay, so a motion to what, interview Mr. McCarthy?
For the role of superintendent of TK schools.
Okay, and should we set a date? I mean, we've all got our calendars here.
Yeah, again, I'm
How
free.
long do you need to prepare, Karen? Monday? Thursday?
I was thinking this Wednesday or Thursday if possible.
Thursday's not a good day.
Wednesday or Thursday are open, so.
But can you be
That
ready,
just-
like, you're super.
Well, I know my history, so I can tell you that. The big thing that you would probably need to, one, know is my vision for the district. And, I would have to hone in on a little bit on that. Probably Thursday night would be better. I know what we've done as far as strategic planning, where we want to move as far as, the entire district. I know what's going on in the buildings and what's happening with construction and all of that, and the community as far as the growth that's taking place. But to put that in a coherent answer right now, maybe difficult.
Right. Yeah, that's putting.
Nice way to
That's
talk.
fine, yeah.
Yeah, virtual conversation, yeah.
Would you feel better about Monday instead? Would you like a little more time? I don't want you to feel rushed.
You have a job to do in the meantime. For free.
We check next Monday night. That would be, a week would be probably preferable to me, but.
Monday's king is TK in school.
We are not,
We are
well,
not.
it's professional development,
PD.
but no, those students. And I don't have anything on next Monday that would give me.
Would you be comfortable with it? Coming in? Well, I guess you're already here.
I'm already here, yeah.
Yeah, which works for you?
Yeah.
Tuesday or Monday? So you're saying Monday's better for you, Craig?
That would give me more time to prepare.
All right.
Okay. Jeff, would that work with you?
That will work.
That would work, okay. Jay, Dave, sorry. Yes, Monday's Chrissy? All right. Okay. Okay.
What time would you?
Yeah, is that something, we want to keep our traditional 7 or try to sneak it up to 6 or? I'm good with 6. Historically, Jeff, that's been trouble for you. You can do it.
Make 6.
Okay. Does 6 work? This end of the table? Yeah, for me.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then we'll be here 16:16. All right, so Monday the 17th, 6 p.m., room 1616. That could be our meeting that we make up from November,
November 8th,
yeah.
reschedule.
Yeah, that could be the rescheduled meeting. And then also if our vacancy filling, that's when we can officially vote them in, either Allison or Chris. So we can take care of that also. Okay, that checks a lot of boxes. Is everybody good with that? Oh, can we have a motion? Please?
Okay, the board will interview Craig McCarthy for the position of superintendent of TK schools at 6 p.m. Monday, January 17th, in room 1616.
Okay, we have a motion by Hamming, support by Snyder. Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, we have a roll call vote, please.
Snyder.
Yeah.
Smith.
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Hammond. Yes.
I almost forgot to answer.
You, I'll just throw the point.
Powers, yes. All right, motion carries, thank you, board. All right, those were,
One last thing on that.
Yes.
I think it'd be good for us to kind of float some questions to you.
oh, absolutely. If you could, yes, please do that by, let's say Saturday. Church started later at 10:30, so I had that whole morning.
Could I, is the format gonna be, I remember like, or is it just, yeah, the form, like, it's not gonna be like a presentation or anything, right? It'll just be a kind of an informal, what is your vision for TK schools and?
That'll be the biggest one, but again, I think there's a community component, like, they might just need the 5-minute autobiography.
Yeah.
And then, yes, I do think we should probably get 5 to 10 questions together. I don't think that'll be hard, and it certainly won't be intimidating. So,
It's almost more you presenting than it is.
Yeah, that's how I, yeah, that's
Right.
definitely how I
But-
see it too.
That's all good.
yeah, but if you have any specific questions, otherwise I'll try to go around and find some and float them out to you. Please by Saturday, and then it'll be Saturday evening at 7 a.m. Okay. All right, so board items for action. We have a bid approval for elementary security camera upgrades. Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah, you have the documentation that was put together by John Dombrowski regarding our elementary security cameras, and the bids that we received from 3 different vendors, VA Central, ROK Systems, and Moss Technologies. Along with the narrative, you got maps with breakdowns of the scope of the new proposed camera systems and how they would capture our playgrounds. John worked with our resource officers, Tony Stein and Jeff Newheiss, to try and determine where the best locations would be for cameras to be able to capture all of the playgrounds. This is really about protecting our youngest students. And so I think they did a great job here, and based on the information, there were three quotes. DA Central, $20,905. ROK Systems, $24,357. Or Moss Technologies, $25,338. The recommendation is actually to go with Moss, and Moss is providing the most coverage with their cameras, covering the most playground and property area of each of the schools, along with the best cameras at the most reasonable price per camera. So So that's why the recommendation is from Moss Technologies.
I'll make the motion that the Thornapple Kellogg Board of Education award the elementary security camera upgrade to Moss Telecommunications for $25,338.12.
Support.
Okay, motion by Dickman, support by Smith.
So is John's still over there?
Yes.
So I just have to say, John, I never have to question what's in what you pull through, because your proposals are so well done.
Thank you.
And I look at, quick glance, I was like, oh, we're going with the highest one, but when you read through it, there's a reason for it, and it's very well done. So I just wanna say thank you.
I'd like to
Yeah,
say
thank
that.
You did a great job with these.
Thank you.
Thank you, good job.
I have a lot of support.
The nice thing about this is we're getting some additional cameras. It also has some great storage as far as being able to store our own footage online for review. Plus it has the widest coverage area, so it's really the best bang for the buck.
I did like how the length of storage for active runtime.
Yeah.
It was neat.
Yeah.
And what are the licenses for? I mean, I get it for computers because of the software. Is it the same kind of thing with the cameras?
Yeah, so typically when you buy software, the software itself is cheap or inexpensive, and then as you add cameras, you have to pay for each camera to license it, to license that camera to be used with the software. And then when Moss designed this system, they use one camera that has 4 lenses, so you use one license instead of using 4 licenses. So if you had 4 cameras to cover the same area, it costs you an additional cost because you have additional licensing costs. So that's what the licenses are.
Thank you.
And how having, yeah.
We have a motion by Dickman, a second by Smith. Any other discussion? All right, and we're spending money, so that is a roll call vote.
Yes, it is. Smith,
Yes.
Newsom,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Hammond, yes. Dickman,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
And Snyder.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board. And we are wrapping up superintendent's report, which we already covered part of
I
it.
pretty much gave you the meeting. I was gonna welcome everybody back, welcome to the second semester. Hopefully everybody had a restful holiday. And then I just pointed out, I think in an email to you last week, I don't know how it's happened, but I've been chosen for jury duty again, the 6th time. So, anyhow, at the end of the month, I will be on jury duty. Unless I'm chosen for a case, I should be able to be contacted via phone, text, or email. So, interesting. My name just keeps going back in that hat.
Good luck in the Irish.
There you go.
Thank you. Is there anything else the board wishes to chit chat about? Alexis, thank you very much for your service. Enjoy all your extra time not reading emails. All right, with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, board.